To the US now, and that so-called debt ceiling. Still no deal. It's the latest from Washington, 9 days out from the June the 1st deadline to raise the government debt limit. President Joe Biden and Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, couldn't come to an agreement on Monday. Today, their negotiators have continued talks on their behalf, but still no deal. Republican Congressman Patrick McHenry said that the key disagreements on spending have not changed. Kevin McCarthy says a deal needs to be done this week in order to avoid default situation, which could be disastrous for the US and global economy. Well, joining us now is Dr. Laurie Esposito-Murray from the Conference Board, a global think tank and business membership association. Thanks so much for coming on the program.
No, thank you for asking.
So what do you make of where these talks are?
So where they are isn't as important as where they need to be. And they need to be, there needs to be a negotiated resolution by June 1st. I don't think we have any other option.
And do you think we'll get there?
We have to get there. The U.S. political leadership really needs to stand up and do what it needs to do to get us over this hurdle. I think it's possible. I think both Speaker McCarthy and President Biden are negotiating in good faith. There's some progress being made. There are some major hurdles that have to be overcome, particularly on spending and what is the baseline level that we go in with for the spending levels. There seems to be agreement in terms of how much it should increase. Reportedly, they're both agree that 1%, but you have to agree to the baseline level to begin with.
Well, can you just explain that? Yeah, just unpack that a bit for us. For slightly technical, explain what you mean there.
So they're looking at what year to use as the baseline for moving forward in terms of this coming year. So is the baseline the FY 2022 spending level, or is it this year that gets frozen and is the level for next year? So that's a big differential. That's in terms of what the spending level that you start with. And then after that, there seems to be agreement that there would be a 1% increase, but you have to get the baseline level set first. And you also have to decide what part of the budget, the discretionary budget, is included, with the Republicans saying that defense is most likely excluded from these cuts.
So defense excluded. What else are the Republicans wanting to talk about and negotiate on?
So there are a couple of areas of agreement. There's the area of agreement clawing back the COVID spending that has not been spent yet or allocated. We need to work out what those levels are, but there's agreement to do that. There's an agreement on permitting, to allow permitting to improve and go forward and be expedited for energy projects. So there are areas of agreement that we have found. There's also, the Republicans have said that tax increases are off the table. And it looks like the administration, the White House, is not pushing back too hard on that. So it really comes down to the spending levels.
And this negotiation, this whole process, we know the potential economic damage done if this debt limit, if the amount Congress is allowed to spend isn't increased and therefore debts aren't paid, and the effects on the real economy, stock market, Wall Street. But is there a damage already being done just by this period of uncertainty?
Well, you look at 2011, and the closer you get to the cliff, the closer you get to the June 1st date, if that really turns out to be the trigger date for when the U.S. can no longer pay its bills, yes, their damage is done in the run-up. In 2011, you saw the Treasury just within the year of that debate spending more than $1.3 billion in terms of the cost of borrowing. You saw rates go up, more expensive for Americans. That impact is going to hit much harder as we get closer to June 1st now in terms of the hit on Americans, because we're going through an inflationary period. So the hit is even harder.
Interesting. Right. We will see what happens. Thank you very much for talking us through it. We appreciate it. Dr. Laurie Esposito-Murray, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Take care.